Hey, sweet friends. My name is Rachel, and this is Rock City Cookies. Today is episode 2 of a new series on this channel called Creative Creators. Now, in this series, I bring to you some of my favorite tips and tricks and techniques that I have seen from other cookiers out there on all the social media platforms. Because the truth of the matter is I am just one person, and there are so many creative cookiers out there sharing some really fun and really cool techniques and tips and tricks to really elevate our cookie businesses. I'm so grateful for those that share their knowledge, share some things that they've learned. And while I love to share with you all the things I have learned, I constantly learn from others as well. And because we can't see all of the things out there, all of the tips, all of the tricks, all of the things from other people, I thought I would start a series on this channel that kind of brings you a few of those videos here into one place so that we can learn together and really elevate our businesses and our cookie skills. Now, episode 1, when I kicked off the series, that is a members only video. It is on our membership platforms. At the $3 level on our membership platforms, you get access to all of the videos. And at the $5 level, you get access to all of the videos plus any digital products I have to offer and a few other perks as well. So if you want to see video 1 in this series, you can just click below on the join button. You'll be able to access all of my membership videos there. If you're curious what is currently available for members only, you can go to the homepage here on YouTube and there is a section of members only videos and you can see all of the videos there that are available to you the moment that you join the membership. All of these videos are also on Patreon, so if you'd rather be a member on Patreon, you're more than welcome to go over there and access all of the content as well at either the $3 or $5 level. But without further ado, let's get learning from some other incredibly creative creators out there. Here we go with tip number 1. Welcome to Rock City Cookies, where we talk about all things cookies. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. Thanks for watching. All right, this one is a technique for all of us who get down to the very, very tiny last bit of dough. And let's say we have one cookie left. If I could not relate to this video anymore, let me tell you, there are so many times where I'm just like, oh, I need like a miracle. I just need one more. I just need one more cookie. I don't want to make a whole new batch of dough. I just need one more. I just need 2 more or whatever out of this last little bit of dough I have. So Mimi's Baked Goods shows us that you can actually make this happen if you have an odd shape of dough without quite as much headache. And the way that you do that is you take whatever shape that you need and you stuff it with whatever dough you have left and you fill that whole shape, the inside of it, with your dough. Then you're going to take it out of that cookie cutter and you are going to just roll out the dough that you just stuffed into that cookie cutter. You're going to roll it out into the thickness that you want it. And then you take your cookie cutter, you come back to that shape, and you will have the perfect amount of dough for your shape that you need. Love this. Wish I would have known it years ago, but this is such a great idea. It'll save so much of us headaches when we come down to that last little bit of dough that we're just desperate to try to make work. So thank you, Mimi. Let's move on to a tip by the Cookie Monger. It's one that I want to try, but I have not yet tried because I haven't had a need for it yet. But she is going to show us how you can write with gold. Make your icing gold to be able to write with or use for details or whatever on your cookies. This isn't necessarily like flood your whole cookie gold type technique. This is just when you need a little bit of gold to write lettering with or a little bit of details. This that I did last week for YouTube was a swan princess, and so the crowns were gold, and so I could have maybe used this technique there. So I'm very intrigued by it. If any of you try it, you have to let me know because I am so curious if this really does work. So she's going to show us that she's using a gold luster dust. I can't remember what she calls it. She calls it a gold highlighter. I think she calls it a gold highlighter. In all of my videos, I call it a gold luster dust, but it's just gold dust. I use TMP gold. The Sugar Art has a pretty good gold. There's lots of golds on the market now. I'm not sure what she's using here. She doesn't share, but she mixes it with corn syrup and Everclear, or that high grain alcohol. So that really, really, really strong, clear alcohol alcohol that you're using to paint with, you're using to mix your golds with, you're using to thin down your gel food coloring for watercolors, like that high grain alcohol that you're using for those techniques, you're going to mix it here with the dust, corn syrup, and that high grain alcohol. And she's doing it in just a little cup, like a little condiment cup. I guess you could use whatever you want, but if you look and see, this is really not that much that she's using here. And she's stirring it really well. And to me, it looks like she's using one of those disposable paintbrushes, like what you use if you're buying like a party kit for like a kid's nail painting party or something. That's to me what it looks like she's mixing here with this like little paintbrush, which honestly wouldn't be a bad idea to have on hand when you're going through all of, like, if you're doing a lot of work with dust and stuff, it wouldn't be bad to have those, because sometimes to clean the gold out of my paintbrushes is a real pain and it gets on my nerves. So I definitely think that's not a bad idea to have on hand. But anyway, she's mixing it all together. She's getting it a really pretty thick mixture here, and she's taking that paintbrush, whatever she's using, and she's painting the inside of a bag. Now I'm going to be honest with you, the bag is like this little, so I don't have piping bags that small. I would have to buy some that are that size, but it's really small amount. But she's piping the inside of that bag with the gold and getting it really nice and coated. You can tell there's like you can't see through it at all. It's really nice and coated inside the bag. And then she takes just the smallest amount of icing. Like it looks like a tablespoon. Let's see if there's more. Yeah, it's like just one spatula worth. So I would say a tablespoon, and she's putting it inside of that bag. So that's why I don't think you could really do a whole lot of details with this type of technique, because to me, it doesn't feel like it gets you a very long way, if that makes sense. So I don't know that this is necessarily effective if you have to do a whole lot of gold work on a whole lot of cookies, but if you have just a little bit, I think this could definitely be a technique that you could use. Now, to me also, she piped a pretty big hole in her bag in order to do this. So if I was doing a technique like this, I wouldn't have such a big hole. I would use on the thinner side. I would cut a smaller hole. I would use a size 1 or a PME tip that's really thin to use for writing or whatever. And then she squeezes the icing for just a little bit until she's getting a pure gold coming out. So at first you're probably going to have a little bit of streaking, a little bit of white showing through. So she squeezes until it's pure gold that she sees. And now she's just going to pipe. And I got to tell you, like, that's pretty impressive, don't you think? Like, I feel like that's a really beautiful gold piping, and you would never know that it's mostly icing underneath. And knowing how much of a pain it is to paint gold on top of existing icing, it's worth it. It's worth a try. But I definitely am curious. If any of you try it, you've got to let me know, because I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. And it's enough work that it's prevented me from even just experimenting with it, because I haven't had to have it. But at some point in time, I am going to try this as well. But if you try it, let me know if it works or not. Now, I did take a picture of her caption on this video because I thought it was interesting enough to go ahead and share with you guys. So a little backstory. She says, "Thanks to ECBG Studio for an awesome technique and for making me excited about cookies again for a few hours." Anyway, so ECBG Studio is a cake creator, and she's the one that originally showed this technique, or a similar one to it, where she used buttercream and gold for her cakes, and it had this really beautiful outcome. That's when a lot of people were starting to be like, "Hey, can we figure this out for cookies? Like, this is really cool. Has anybody done this with royal icing? Blah blah blah." Because something that she used, I can't remember exactly what it was, but something that she used, like, her technique wouldn't work for royal icing at all, because it was like I can't remember the details, but there's something that wouldn't have worked with buttercream that would with royal icing. I'm guessing some sort of water or something. So anyway, the Cookie Monger found a way to do it with royal icing. And so I'm going to keep reading, but that's the backstory and why she's thinking the actual original creator was a cake creator. She said, "Here is my solution for royal icing. I'm sure there will be others that work as well. A few pointers. Don't add the corn syrup and alcohol separately. The mixture separated and didn't stay on the icing. I had to mix the two liquids and add them to the dust. I keep this mixture handy anyway because it has so many amazing uses." So basically she's saying either do the mixture in your cup first, the corn syrup and alcohol, get it mixed together really well, and then add the dust, or have two different containers to do this process. Mix the corn syrup and alcohol into the dust in one container, or just start with your mixture and add the gold dust to that one container, if that makes sense. So just make sure you do your alcohol, your corn syrup first, and then add the gold dust. I keep this mixture handy anyway because it has so many amazing uses. A super thick royal also dulled the gold quickly. A thick lettering consistency worked best for me. So So she's telling us don't use too thick of an icing here. I don't use my like lettering consistency isn't just super thick, but I'm guessing she's telling you don't do it for like gold flowers or anything like that. It won't hold that beautiful gold where you have to have a whole lot of extra powdered sugar. So just kind of keep it on that like letter piping consistency, which is typically my go-to consistency anyway. So you have to let me know if that one is as exciting for you guys as it was for me. And we'll see if it really works or not. I will let you know in the future. All right, this next technique is from the Goodies Goddess, and I love that name. And she is showing how to get 2 or 3, in this case, defined puffy sections of icing without having to come back to your cookies later and do them again. And I've actually already put this technique and trick into my bag of tricks that I use for my cookies. I'm already using this technique and I actually really love it. I definitely recommend that you learn from this and you try to incorporate it into your piping as you're working. If you're able to do something like this, highly recommend that you follow along with this technique and you start incorporating it in your cookies. It'll really speed up your processing time. So she actually pipes 2 lines very close together. So every section of her icing, if you don't overfill the section, it'll stay in place. It'll only go as far as where that line is that you piped. So in this case, it's really great because there is this like little negative space between her areas of her baseball, which makes it look very authentic. Love it. It looks fantastic. Now, when you're doing cookies, you may not always want that negative space in your design. So you might not want to pipe your lines so far apart. But let me tell you, this also works just to have your 2 lines piped right next to each other, or to build a little bit of wall of lines in between your sections. So kind of go over that line 2 or 3 times with your icing before you flood it. And as long as you don't overfill those sections, your flood icing will only go to the line that you piped and stop. So then you are able to do both sides of your cookie and not have to wait for that drying time in between and still have the look of defined sections. So it is a little bit of a trial and error if you are learning this process, if you're trying it out. It is a little bit where you have to kind of figure out what kind of look you want, if it looks okay to have a little bit more separation like what she had, or if you need to get those lines really close together. But I highly recommend you try it. I love it actually. It doesn't work every time. It does work every time, but it doesn't look good for every design. But there are times where it really, really, really looks great and it really saves my processing time. And I'm able to crank out cookies a lot faster that have multiple sections to flood. So try it. I think you'll like it too. All right, this is our last one for today. Now, this is a technique that has been around for a very long time, but I feel like it always drops off my radar. And so I just wanted to remind you guys of it because I thought sometimes we feel like everybody else has seen the same things that we have and maybe they haven't, or you may have seen it and just forgot about it. So if you're wanting to do multiple colors, a rainbow, or in this case, she's doing a peppermint, instead of having to have multiple bags of icing, sometimes you can have your icing all together in one bag. And then when you squeeze out your icing, it gives a really cool technique. Now she's using buttercream here, but this can be done with thick royal icing. And I have done it with thick royal icing. This is the part that always kills me whenever I do this technique, and is because it feels wasteful. But you are going to have to actually put your colors into a piping bag to pipe your rows of whatever colors you're using. But you're going to pipe rows of a color onto a sheet of saran wrap. So here she did red, white, red, white, red, white. So she had 2 piping bags of red and white of thick icing. Again, she's using buttercream, but I have done this with royal icing. I know it works with royal icing. And then she's going to just roll up that saran wrap, twist both ends. So you can kind of fling it and twist both ends. She's going to cut off one of the end of the saran wrap and stick the saran wrap into a new piping bag. Now, you probably want to, in this case, you either want to have a really large hole cut into your piping bag, or you may want to have a tip that you're using, a large tip. Either way, you're going to slide that saran wrap into your new piping bag, tie it off at the top so that none of your icing comes out. And then when you go to squeeze your icing out of your piping bag, either using a tip or using a large hole cut into into your piping bag. See here, she's using a tip. Then you're just going to squeeze out some icing onto your cookie. And she pressed down her icing into some sanding sugar. And then it has this like candied peppermint look. Super cute. My only caution is when you're using sanding sugar, sometimes if the airflow is not enough, then into your icing, your royal icing won't dry underneath that sanding sugar. So you do have to make sure you have some airflow. So if you're going to use sanding sugar, I do recommend the coarse sanding sugar like this that still allows airflow in between the like blocks of the sanding sugar. Don't use table sugar for a technique like this, because if you use table sugar, it'll just coat the entire surface of your royal icing and you won't have any airflow and it will never dry. I made this mistake once with tennis balls. It had a super really fun, cool effect, but my royal icing never dried. So I had to start over. So if you're going to do this, I do recommend trying it with sanding sugar to make sure your royal icing dries. Or I love in the end, she also shows if you cover it with parchment paper. She stuck her buttercream in the freezer to get this technique because it was buttercream. And so after it froze, she was able to pull off the parchment paper. But you were also able to just do this with a parchment paper, let it dry because it's royal icing. So stick it in front of a fan, let it dry for about a day, and then pull off that parchment paper. And then you would have this exact same technique where again, it looks like a really cute little peppermint. So I love that technique as well. And I'm excited to try it next year for some holiday designs. Or this would be cute for like a tutu cute, like where you're doing the, oh, how sweet it is to be one theme or something like that, where you're doing like a candy theme. This would be a really cute addition as well in that. Or like I said, you can add it to your Christmas cookies next year. And that is it for this second installment on our Creative Creators series. I will have more videos coming to this series in the future, so please check back for those. In the meantime, we are doing the bee themed set for next week's videos, and this bee theme is my all-time best seller in my Etsy shop. So I definitely think it's one that you want to check out, because if you have not gotten a bee theme yet, I bet you will soon. Until then, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.